Hi everybody, this is John Watkins. In late April and May of 2025, Margaret and I went on Viking's London, Paris, and D-Day river cruise. We had a good time and made a lot of good memories, and we'll share them with you in this series of videos. There were some things that we learned during this cruise that we wish we had known before we booked it, and we'll share those with you too. Although the cruise was positive, it was not as overwhelmingly positive as our British Isles ocean cruise was last year, on which I posted another series of videos. The trip started in London. This part of the trip is purely a land package. There is a version of the trip that includes only the Paris portion, and that may be more suitable for some folks. As I said, the London portion is a land package. Viking put us up in the Hilton Park Lane, which is a nice hotel that is located in Mayfair. It is literally across the street from Hyde Park, and is also located near Shepherd's Market, which is a really neat area of shops, restaurants, and pubs, which we enjoyed. Many of the best experiences we had in London were on our own, and I will share those in the latter portion of this video. But since most people are probably interested in the Viking portions, we'll cover those first. Our first surprise was learning that the first excursion Viking had planned for us was an 11-hour day featuring a lot of time on a tour bus that involved a tour of a pub, a wharf, and a small museum. We decided that that was not a good use of our time, having just arrived and not wanting to be exhausted, so we opted out of that part, as did some others. However, we did speak to some folks later in the cruise who took that part of the tour, and they liked it. Our first part of the tour was in Bletchley Park, the home of the famous code breakers, and we enjoyed that a lot. So let's go out to Bletchley right now.
Well, this is our first day on the D-Day tour, and we are at Bletchley Park, the home of the famous code breakers that cracked the German Enigma machines and other codes during World War II. It's a nice lake in the center of the complex. Across the way, there's a mansion you can see in the background. It's a beautiful day, kind of springtime in Britain right now. So we'll let you know how it goes. It's the statue of Alan Turing in the museum in Block B, which has a timeline and lots of exhibits about Bletchley Park.
Most of the work at Bletchley was done in a series of somewhat claustrophobic huts, and there are some of them that you can tour.
And this is in Hut 8, and this is a recreation of Alan Turing's office. Of course, he was one of the primary mathematicians, scientists who was responsible for the code breaking here in Bletchley Park. These huts, they have films, they almost look like holograms of period officers being projected onto the walls. It's pretty cool, very interesting. He's puzzled by something there.
If you go to Bletchley, be sure to watch the film, which is really well done, and it's kind of a multimedia experience.
This is a model of a bomb machine, B-O-M-B-E, that Alan Turing invented to help decipher the Enigma codes.
We alert our Army, Air Force and Navy training centres where they're training the raw recruits, giving their basic training to look out for specific skills that are useful in here. So let's talk about a wren for 2 minutes. Wren called Betty Rogers. Betty Rogers just happens to be my daughter's partner's grandmother. She was a wren, recruited as a wren. She looked lovely, you know. One of the reasons the ladies like to join the Wrens is because of the uniform was tailored. True story. They didn't want to join the ATS because that was a bit of sackcloth. But the Navy in particular, they were measured, they had tailored uniforms, they liked it. She thought she was going around the world with the Navy. Okay, so she passes out and she's summoned into the commander's office. Well, Betty, you're moving on, you're going to... No, we actually don't know where you're going. Because nobody's telling us. They didn't tell the bosses where they're going. Yeah. And the work, we don't know what work you're going to be doing either, because we haven't got the foggiest idea. Nobody tells us anything. But what we do know is two things. One is you can never ever speak about your work. And the second thing is you will never be on active service while this war goes on. Because nobody who'd been at Bletchley Park could ever go on active service abroad.
The next Viking excursion was a visit to Churchill's war rooms and the Churchill Museum. This involved getting up very early, and all the buses left between 7 and 7:30. This created quite a logjam, unpleasantly so, I would say, in the hotel for breakfast. However, the reason for this was that Viking had secured limited access to the war rooms and museums for Viking customers. Even so, it was still somewhat crowded, and it also is rather dark in the war rooms and museums, so I don't have a whole lot to show you. It wasn't really very good for taking photographs or filming, but it was really interesting and we really enjoyed it.
Areas of the place.
Correction, this is the map.
Block ships, aerodromes, and he actually made some of his most famous speeches from here. So, this is the broadcasting equipment. So he made.
On his way to Moscow, John Starvin might be a second front to see the future. Churchill stopped off in the Middle East. He was very, very worried about the critical situation there with what threat Egypt with Suez Canal. He was worried about.
After visiting the war rooms and the Churchill Museum, there were some additional activities for those who wanted to participate, including a walking tour or a bus tour around London. We opted out of those. As I indicated earlier, some of the best parts of the London trip for us were things that we booked separately from Viking or more or less stumbled upon by ourselves. The first and one of the best experiences was a black cab tour, a 4-hour tour that we booked on Viator. And cabbie Ian Gray took us around, just Margaret and me, and we asked Ian to show us some of the quirky and lesser known highlights of London. And boy, did he deliver. I'll show you some of that now. Here are Margaret and Ian at the start of our trip. And here we are crossing Abbey Road, just like on the cover of the Beatles album. This is a cab bin shelter. The cab bin shelters were established in the late 19th century to have a place where the cabbies could get out of the weather and have a bite to eat. And only licensed cabbies are allowed in at this time. There are only 13 of them left. This is Little Venice, part of the canal system in London, and it's truly beautiful. This is the Albert Memorial. This is where the famous Crystal Palace was for the World Exposition in I believe it was the late 19th century. This is the Eagle Squadrons Memorial in Grosvenor Square. It commemorates Americans who served in the RAF generally prior to America's entry into the war. This is the Burlington Arcade, London's oldest shopping center, dating from the early 1800s. This is Victoria Embankment Garden, which was built on land reclaimed from the Thames. Beautiful flowers, and here's a crowd gathering during the lunch hour. Quirky clock near Paddington Station.
Watch the man in the clock. There he goes. He's moving the hand, I think. Thanks to our friend Ian for showing us this.
This is the Wild Table of Love, a neat statue near Paddington Station. We also enjoyed exploring Hyde Park, which is a huge park and is located, as I said, just literally across the street from the Hilton Park Lane where we stayed. Come along and I'll show you some of that.
So we are in Hyde Park, and this is the statue of Achilles that was erected in honor of the Duke of Wellington at the order of King George, one of the King Georges. So there it is. It's a really impressive statue, very, very large. This is one of the main lanes in Hyde Park, and it's just beautiful. It's tree lined. It has these lamps down the middle of it, and it's got a lane for bikers and a lane for walkers and joggers. It's really pretty. This is the entrance to some formal gardens in Hyde Park. Very attractive. This is Serpentine Lake in Hyde Park, and it is Friday afternoon. It's a pretty lake. We've been trying to find it for the better part of 2 days when we've been in the park, so we're happy we found it. Closer view. And this is just kind of to document we actually saw it.
We also enjoyed exploring the Shepherd Market area, which is literally a block or two behind the hotel. We stumbled upon a restaurant called Misto, an Italian restaurant, and it became one of our favorite places. In fact, we ate there 4 times during our visit. We also found the Chamberlain Arms pub, which was a very friendly and welcoming place. Here are some of the alleyways at Shepherd Market. And why have a garden if you can put the garden on the side of the building? And of course, you got to have red telephone booths if you're in London. And here is the King's Arms, one of the pubs. And here is the Chesterfield Arms, quote, our end quote, pub. And here's some folks inside having a drink. And we ran into some friends, and all the women had the same bag. Here's Misto, our Italian restaurant where we ate 4 times. And here is Monica and the Misto crew who treated us so well on every visit. Well, after the London part of the trip, it was on to Paris. Viking had booked us on the Eurostar train that goes under the Channel, and I must say Viking handled the transfer to the train station very well. The waiting at the train station was not so great, but the ride on the Eurostar was really pretty nice. So we'll see you in Paris next time.